after just 2 games. But that loss yesterday against the West Tigers was ordinary. West Tigers were fantastic all the same, but Jason Riles, already under pressure. Would you like to be in his shoes today?
Oh, I think he's learning how to coach. Sitting at a couple of power clubs that he did, being assistants, you know, with great players. I think the way Parramatta have cleaned out their ranks, they've got a really young side. And watching them yesterday, we called the game on Triple M. I didn't know the answers, and I said through the call, this is the reason why I don't coach, because the way Parramatta were playing in attack and defence, they're just young, they're inexperienced, but, you know, Jason Riles, he's been there to do a job, and when Mitchell Moses comes back, there's no doubt that they will be a better side. But the poor kids, they didn't have too many answers yesterday.
Gordy, they've conceded more than 80 points in the first 2 games, and we can understand a touch-up against Melbourne
absolutely.
In Melbourne. That performance yesterday, I thought, against the West Tigers team was really, really poor. I think they're a completely leaderless football club while Mitchell Moses is on the field. They let Gutherson go last year. They let their clubman of the year, Regan Campbell-Gillard, go. As I said, Moses isn't there. There is no one. You go through that program in that
So
side.
are you saying they shouldn't have let go of RCG, Gutho? What do you mean by that?
Junior Paulo's a former captain of that footy club.
I know he is. But
so I mean, you can't say Junior Paulo's not a leader. I mean, he's led his country. I remember the World Cup. I can't remember, it was Samoa maybe.
I think
it was
that
for, but
team,
he's a leader.
I watched that game yesterday. I thought they were leaderless. And when they're in trouble against a side like the West Tigers, I think a great leader would have rallied the troops a little bit better than what was going on out there.
Where I would disagree with you is I think they were rudderless rather than... I think they had leaders.
Well, it's the same thing, mate.
No, it's not.
It is.
Because they had
It's
no
the
one to
same
take
thing.
control of the footy team.
Well, why
they had
didn't
leaders
Dylan
out.
Hold on.
Well, Junior Paulo can't do it. He's a front rower.
They had a guy that's just been offered $13 million that's going to run a side that was there.
Yeah, he couldn't do it, Gordy. Couldn't do it yesterday.
But
that was pretty obvious to everyone who was at the game.
Is that Jason Riles' fault? As Riles said, Volkman's running the football side. He's got the number 7 on the jersey.
But it's all hands on deck.
But
there's all hands on deck. No. I think young kids bring you enthusiasm when you play. The old guys have got to bring you stability and the leadership, and they give you a bit of calmness on the field. But the old blokes didn't, right? And if they keep on waiting for Mitchell Moses, he's been injured the last couple of years, but someone needs to step up. And for me, it was Dylan Brown. It was Dylan Brown yesterday. The fans booed him. I thought that might have sparked him to get the ball and go, well, I'll show you that I'm going to be wearing the blue and gold for the next, 20 games and leave with...
I don't think it matters what number is on his back. He's the senior half out of those 2 guys. I mean, Ronald Volkman...
But he didn't play like that, Brady.
Well, I know, and that's my point. Why? You can't say that's Jason Riles' fault.
Well,
that's not Jason Riles' fault.
I don't know how he structured the side, and maybe he said, Volkman, 7, you're running the footy side.
Well, then
there must be some other reason for the fact that outside his first couple of runs, he did nothing. He did nothing.
There's no way that Jason Riles would have gave the game plan and direction to Volkman. He would have gave it to Brown. So Brown's just hasn't hit his assignment.
Well, why doesn't he pick him in the 7 jersey then, Bray? When they're in this much trouble,
think he's a 7,
they're
like
playing
Newcastle
that
do.
poor.
Who are you going to put 6?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, listen, Riles, he's got his hands full. I mean, not only has he taken on a new team with Gutho, a leader that's moved on, Moses out injured, his other key playmaker now has just signed with Newcastle and walked out on the club. He's trying to probably change a few systems in there defensively and both with attack, and he's got players out of position. He's got a young Volkman who's come in who's not quite ready yet. The pack didn't... They were awful yesterday. Like, that first 25 minutes of that game was possibly the worst game I've ever watched. Like, that's been brutally honest. Both sides were poor the first 25, but they didn't get any better as it went on. I think the only time they scored was the last 2 minutes of the game when they had 12 men on.
12 men on.
They were playing against 12 men.
And systems you're talking about in attack or defence?
No, I'm talking about both, right? Like, so Riles is renowned for his defence. In Melbourne, he did a great job with them, and a totally different roster and team. But though he showed how effective he can be as a coach in Melbourne with that. But when he's obviously come in and he's trying to implement that same probably system and process to a new club, a young team, with players that aren't really up to it at the moment. I feel sorry for Rolsey, I do, because where to, but like you look at the side, there's not like there's a heap of players that come back. Mitchell will come back, and we've seen in the past he makes a huge difference, like a huge difference. Do we think Mitch just comes back into this team and makes them a 10, 20 point better side, both in attack and defence, or not?
Well, he'll get a better field position, all that, but the way their forwards played yesterday, they're not going to beat anyone, seriously. They're going worse than St George. They're going as bad as the Cowboys. And look, I don't know, Mitchell will improve.
They're probably going
the
worst out of any team right now.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, them and the Cowboys. But even Zach Lomax, you know, has he picked him in the right position?
He tried hard yesterday.
I know he tried hard, but is he a centre or is he a winger? He made mistakes.
Well,
he dropped back and played on the wing.
He defended as a winger.
Yeah.
He defended wing, but like he attacked in the centre, so he was switching both times. And I think, you know...
He's been one of their better players, though, Gordy, in the first
I thought he tried really hard
hasn't had
yesterday.
much to beat, Reedy.
No, he hasn't, but he's been one of the better ones.
I want to go back to Gutherson. You all are of the strong opinion that they should have kept him, but you disagree, Rudy. Is that right?
He got a 3-year deal at the Dragons on big money, and I don't think...
But he was under contract to Parramatta. They did not have to let him go.
Well, they didn't have to, but they did the right thing by him, Buzz, because they weren't going to give it... Let me finish. They weren't going to give him a 3-year deal. So they did the right thing by him.
You're talking about a footy
at their own
department.
expense.
You're talking about your footy department.
Hold on. If Gutho's going so well, why are the Dragons 0-2, Buzz?
Gutherson was their best player there.
OK, but they're still 0-2.
Yeah, they're going a lot better than Parramatta. That Parramatta football department is stuffed up for many, many years, right? With these stupid clauses that...
Don't go back to the clauses.
I'm giving you some examples about how many mistakes they made. They could have stood firm and said to Gutherson, you're playing out your contract here. No, they let him go. They let their clubman of the year go.
They did the right thing by the bloke, and now you're going to bag him.
So they're being nice. You can't be nice and just set people up. You've got to win football games.
Well, they probably thought they would win footy games. As
they thought wrong.
They didn't anticipate. Look, they brought a young fullback in as well. You know, Iongi, who's been one of their better players in the first 2 weeks.
You keep saying they're one of the better players. How many good players they have?
They've had two. Zach Lomax and young Iongi.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, you can't imagine.
Right? They've been beaten by 80 points.
They spent the entire off-season working with Mitch Moses as their halfback. They built everything around him. They brought in Dean Hawkins to back him up, to deputise for him. They've lost both those blokes in the pre-season. Yeah. Right? That's
so what
huge.
You're saying is every club, with 1 year to go on the contract, should just let them go. You are.
No,
that's what you're saying.
Mate, because he wanted 3 years. And then they kept on losing all their young players.
And he'd been a great servant to them for a long time.
But he was under contract to the club. He was under contract. They were in no position to allow him to leave. He was the heart and soul of that rugby league team. He was to Parramatta what Nathan Cleary is to Penrith in a different way.
I would say Mitchell Moses.
No, I'm not comparing them. I'm not comparing them as players. Yeah, I'm comparing them to what they mean to their football clubs. So
are you saying if he plays, they win one of the, or both the first 2 games?
I'm not saying that
well, then
at all.
What's the difference?
Braith is asking us to please explain 80 points, nearly 80 missed tackles in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, you know as well,
they've got a kid out the back, and you know how important fullbacks are in defence and keeping things organised, particularly in young football sides.
Yeah. All right, well, I want to give some Parramatta fans some sort of hope or optimism. So I looked at Cameron Serrato's coaching record when he went to the Bulldogs, because I was thinking, we were talking about Cameron like we were Jason that first year at the Dogs. You know, is he the right man? Does he have the capabilities? Because he had such a big rap on him, as Jason does. And in the first season here, as you can see at the Dogs, he only won 7 games. They came 15th. And just some hope here. With time, you can see here that Serrato is really taking the Bulldogs to another level.